That must be probably the worst kind of remodel you can do is the kitchen. Because that's where it is.
There's water, you can't wash stuff, you're doing
dishes and
it's just-
things around the
yeah,
house.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's- Let's just get one more check.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for joining for today's September 15th SBCAG board meeting. For the record, my name is Das Williams, and I'm the chair of the SBCAG board. Madam Clerk, please facilitate roll call.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Director Hart,
Here.
Hartman,
Here.
You almost made me laugh.
Nelson, Lavanino,
Here.
Urig,
Here.
Julian,
Here.
Sierra,
Here.
Osborne, Patino,
Here.
Brody,
Here.
Clark, Rouse,
Here.
and Chair Williams. Just can I
Here.
remind the board members up north to mute your mics because we can hear when you guys start speaking until you're ready to make a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is a good entree for you to remind the public and ourselves of any procedures.
Okay. Yeah. Just a couple of Zoom reminders. For all the panelists, please remember to mute your mics when you're not speaking. If you'd like to comment, please use the raise your hand button. If you're an attendee, you'll be in listen-only mode. All attendees will remain in listen-only mode unless unmuted by SBCAG staff to provide public comment. Comments from the public are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The public will not be able to share the screen or video. When public comment is called on for an agenda item, attendees may use the raise your hand button to express desire to provide public comment for that item, and you will be unmuted when it is your turn. Those calling on the phone can dial *9 to raise your hand. Thank you. And those conclude my Zoom reminders.
Thank you. Will you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is public comment. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda today?
Chair Williams, we have one request for public comment. Mr. Scott Wins.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Scott Wins, representing Cars Are Basic. We presented to you an alternative to MTD approximately a year ago, and not one member of the board has ever bothered to contact us to see how it would possibly work. MTD is a failing operation. There's no question about it. Prior to the pandemic, 2018, 2019, the downtown shuttle in Santa Barbara lost 18% of its ridership. That's after the board allowed them to spend $14 million on all-electric shuttles. If it was supposed to work, it should have worked then. Now the issue before you. MTD, approximately 2 weeks ago, doubled up its fist and smashed this organization and the chair's authority right in the nose. MTD board just authorized the development of property on Kai Rail next to this organization's headquarters. They were told specifically, and Director Hart was on the board, not on the board, excuse me, as an employee of this organization, was here when this organization came before you and said, not possible. It's not in their charter. Mr. Reddy sat over there where this gentleman's sitting. He was your counsel. He supported our position. The charter for MTD states specifically, and I've read every single word of that charter. I haven't sped read it. I read every specific word in it. That MTD is to operate a transportation agency, period. It is supposed to get its operating capital and funds from the agencies that contracted: the city of Santa Barbara, the county of Santa Barbara, the city of Goleta, wherever. They are not supposed to be a land developer. They're not supposed to be a land renter. They have said, we don't care. Since Director Fisher left, MTD's been out of control. It's become nothing more than a political tool. Director Gleason was forced to resign. 50% of the board was forced to resign because of the politics. And now, less than what, I believe it's 6 years now, they're coming back with identical program that they were told that they could not do. This organization said no. Mr. Reddy, who's sitting over there, said no. They came back and said, we're going to do it anyway. It is time somebody got a hold of them by the back of the neck and say, we are sick and tired of your politics, and you are going to specifically adhere to your charter. And if you don't, let's shut it down. We have the option to shut it down. We can do it and make it far.
Thank you, Mr. Wentz.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment for items not on the agenda?
Chair Williams, we have no other requests for public comment. We did receive two public comment letters, though, that were distributed to the board prior to the meeting.
And I just want to note that I read one of them, and I definitely would love some staff input as chair on the question of daylight savings time. It is an issue that the legislature grappled with in the past. Mr. Hart, I'm sure, will grapple with it in the future, but I am interested in a position and a desire staff input on it. Okay. With that, we'll go to item 4, approval of the consent calendar. Is there any item that any member wishes to pull? Seeing none, can I get a motion on the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Seconded.
A first by Hart and a second by Rouse. And a third by Urick.
Yes.
Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Just like there's no public comment.
Yes, is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
Thank you. Director Hart.
Aye.
Hartman. Nelson. Lavanino.
Aye.
Urick.
Aye.
Julian.
Aye.
Sierra.
Aye.
Osborne.
Aye.
Patino.
Aye.
Rhodey.
Aye.
Clark. Rouse.
Aye.
And Chair Williams.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And Hartman is also aye, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Director Hartman. 11-0.
Thank you. Consent calendar is approved, A through G. Madam Clerk, will you please read item 5 into the record?
Thank you, Chair Williams. Item 5 is submittal of Senate Bill SB1 Cycle 3 applications for Santa Barbara US 101 multimodal corridor. 5A, receive a presentation on development of SB1 applications for Santa Barbara US 101 multimodal corridor. 5B, approve submittal of applications to California Transportation Commission.
Mr. Kochek?
Thank you, Chair Williams, Directors. Good morning. Sarkis Kachik with SBCAG. We're excited today to give your board an update on where we are with development of Senate Bill 1 Cycle 3 applications to the California Transportation Commission. So next slide, please. The staff recommendation today, along with input from the Technical Transportation Advisory Committee, or TTAC, is to approve submittal of applications to the California Transportation Commission this winter. Next slide, please. Back in 2017, Governor Jerry Brown signed Senate Bill 1 into law, which provided many new opportunities for transportation funding in California. This was a game changer and transformative for our region as we seek to fully fund the Santa Barbara US 101 multimodal corridor. As part of Senate Bill 1, there are many competitive programs, but we have 3 competitive programs in mind, which are local partnership, Solutions for Congested Corridors, and the Trade Corridors or Freight Program. In total, for the upcoming cycle, there will be $1.7 billion available. The CTC approved guidelines at their meeting in August. Next slide, please. We have been working with Caltrans on developing the funding applications for submittal to the CTC. This includes the remaining segments of the Highway 101 HOV project, along with the Cabrillo Railroad Bicycle Pedestrian and Bridge, active transportation improvements in the city of Santa Barbara on the east side, electric vehicle infrastructure charging in partnership with the city. Oh, thank you. It's okay. In partnership with the County of Santa Barbara and City of Santa Barbara, and the working with Santa Barbara MTD on the purchase of 6 electric buses for their fleet, and then finally working with the Ventura County Transportation Commission on additional contactless card readers to make it easier for riders to use a credit card if they need to board the bus. So as you can see, there's a lot of partnerships happening. Thank you. Next slide, please. So we've been working with Caltrans on development of the applications. We have received good news that we will be partnering with them on the Trade Corridors Enhancement and Solutions for Congested Corridors program. This allows us to be eligible for additional funding as part of the $1.7 billion and makes us a higher priority. So we've identified 2 packages, which I'll go over in a second. But staff is cautiously optimistic about our prospects for Cycle 3. We are competitive for a number of reasons. First, we're co-applying with Caltrans. Second, we have a significant local match to show we have skin in the game. And third, we are going to be competitive by being ready to deliver on these projects in the first year of the program. Next slide, please. This is what the final package to the CTC looks like. We have identified 2 priority packages to fully fund the remaining segments. The first package includes our co-application with Caltrans and identifies 2 of the remaining HOV segments in the Santa Barbara Montecito area. In total, it'll be $127 million for the HOV, along with the projects I mentioned, which included the MTD buses and the contactless card reader. And then the package 2 is one that SBCAG will submit on our own for congested corridors and local partnership. And so that'll be $132 million. And so this gives options to the CTC, but all projects will be ready to go within the next funding cycle. Next slide, please. This is the final slide. In terms of next steps, we are wrapping up the applications with Caltrans, so we're thankful for that partnership. And then today we're looking for your board's approval to submit those applications. Those applications will be submitted in November and December, and then CTC staff, due to the volume of applications, will have a few months to review and evaluate those projects. And then in June of next year, we will have staff recommendations for CTC with scheduled approval at the June commission meeting in Sacramento of next year. Next slide, please. So with that, we did want to thank the support from the SBCAG board for our strategy, along with the input and support from TTAC, and be happy to take any questions.
Questions from the board? Just in case somebody didn't tune in to our sub-regionals yesterday, you guys went through it very, very thoroughly and in detail. So if there's not any questions today, that may be a little bit why. But any other questions? Any comments? Any public comment?
Chair Williams, we have no request for public comment.
Well, I don't want to make sure something this momentous nothing is said about it. I just want to make sure that you all know that this board and the tens of thousands of constituents that will have relief and better transportation options as this project is completed really appreciate the work that is done. We don't always seem like that we do. There's obviously frustration with the construction project in the body politic, but we very much are interested in solutions, and we appreciate the staff is fighting for those solutions, and look forward to Battle Day at the CTC. Is there a motion?
Yurg makes a motion to accept the recommendation as noted.
First by Jurg, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rouse. Roll call, please.
Director Hart,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Nelson, Lavanino,
Aye.
Eurig,
Aye.
Julian,
Aye.
Sierra,
Aye.
Osborne,
Aye.
Patino,
Aye.
Parodi,
Aye.
Clark, Rouse,
Aye.
and Chair Williams.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Madam Clerk, will you please read item 6 into the record?
Certainly. Item 6 is the draft broadband strategic plan. Receive a presentation on the development of the draft broadband strategic plan, including draft recommendations applicable to SBCAG.
Mr. Becker?
Thank you, Chair Williams. Good morning, Chair Williams and directors. Today represents a major milestone in the broadband strategic plan project. Maria Kelly, who's behind me, will be doing the bulk of the speaking today. We also have Bill Simmons and Shelby Arthur here, and combined that is the Broadband Brain Trust of Santa Barbara County. Before passing the microphone on to Maria, though, I'd like to briefly cover how we got to where we are today. This all started about a year ago with the formation of the Broadband Alliance of Santa Barbara County. The alliance is a partnership of SBCAG, the county, each of the cities, the tribe, the Broadband Consortium, and regional economic development organizations. The partnership began from a vision of this board, who directed Margie Kern to build support for a regional broadband strategic plan to identify the infrastructure and affordability needs in the county. And this was a focused task to develop the countywide plan that could support future funding opportunities. At the beginning of the year, we brought on the Broadband Consortium to deliver the project. And then, led by the Econ Alliance, who is a subcontractor, we had a dozen community events throughout the county that highlighted the issues experienced by a lack of stable and adequate broadband internet. A speed test and a survey were conducted and had impressive levels of participation, which exceeded all goals. In addition, the team engaged with city councils and met with the senior city leadership from throughout the region to learn the local issues that need to be incorporated into the plan. Following all that, the team began drafting what you will learn of today. And I'd like to note that basically all this work occurred in 2022, which for any other project would have taken twice as long. Finally, as the project works towards conclusion, we've already made steps as an agency and as a region to prepare ourselves for the implementation process. The final plan will be brought back to you in November for your consideration. The project team is also in the process of scheduling a third and final round of presentations with the city councils and the Board of Supervisors. A couple of them are already scheduled, and these will occur between now and the end of the year. To note, we're asking for feedback by the end of the month. When the draft was published as part of today's agenda, it was also sent to stakeholders. A few loose ends we wrapped up, and all comments that are received will be addressed, and then the final plan will be professionally formatted, so it won't look like what was part of today's agenda item. And finally, before Maria Kelly gets into the details of the draft plan, we wanted to recognize and thank the work of Chair Williams and his office to incorporate the voices of the Kiama Valley. The project team did not conduct a formal public forum in the Kiama Valley this past year, as that region is the only community in the county who has current state funding and an active project already underway to bring broadband to the community, and that is separate from the efforts of this project. This plan is narrowly focused on to result in seeking funding that does not exist in the county to close the digital divide in alignment with the state's Broadband for All efforts. The Kiama Valley is the county's success story, which this plan seeks to catch everybody else up to. That said, we learned we're not alone in the need to understand the complicated world of broadband that goes far beyond the focused work of this plan. We are working with Chair Williams' office to incorporate the voices of the Kiama Valley, and we acknowledge the Valley is unique when it comes to planning and policy decisions, and look forward to participating in a meeting next week to have a conversation not only about the draft plan and the work of this team, but also to raise awareness for broadband overall, which was a request of the community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maria, and I will advance slides when you tell me.
Good morning. All right, cover the agenda so you can see where we're going to go today. I did notice, yeah, my name is heavy there, so if I get tired of talking, I might ask Bill or Shelby to jump in. Want to take us back through the sort of the project overview and timeline. The lens of the project is Broadband for All. I'll cover that. Status of the strategy, let you know where some of the gaps are that we're still working through. Project highlights, the speed test summary, why it's important and why we still need more data. That will be an ongoing work effort well into 2023. Some recommended regional actions, SBCAG's role, and just a few items, and then leave plenty of time for questions. So that's how we're going to start today. I first want to just say thank you to all of your communities that you represent for the level of engagement and participation. I cannot be more complimentary in how interesting it's been in such a short period of time to organize all the communities and get their input. So thank you for that. Next slide, please. So a reminder of timeline and why this is relevant is because you see when we started it in January, there were several significant shifts within the broadband landscape while this project was in place. When we first were presented, we talked about Infrastructure Jobs Act. That made an impact on timing of grant availability, of what the state's focus was, things that were shifting. Broadband for All looks at 100 up, 100 down symmetrical. The IIJA was going to promote that, but they decided to go 120 so that they could leave out fiber and just include cable. So there were all these things happening while we're trying to focus and analyze Santa Barbara County. It's been so exciting. So where we are right now, through that Broadband for All lens, looking at affordability, availability, access, redundancy, resiliency, we are now here and trying to tie up all the loose ends and make sure that we have a fully complete comprehensive plan for your review and implementation. We are incorporating feedback and scheduling the presentations, as Mike said, so we look forward to being back in front of your city councils and back here in this board chamber on November 1st. Oh, yes, wanted to let you know. So where the status of the plan is right now, it's with a company called Teleworks. They're a consultant that we've been working with on this project, and they're doing one final analysis on sort of the complexity of, we really dove into big details, but there's a whole sort of high-level design, specific broadband information that we still want to incorporate and include. We couldn't do that prior, so that's happening right now while we're doing the incorporation and editing. So there's still new information that will be coming in the next document. Next slide, please. Status of our deliverables for this project. Again, we're collecting the feedback until September 30th. That final analysis development that I was just mentioning being completed by Teleworks will also be completed by the 30th. And then we are going to take a very fast look and continue to put that together and provide those broadband scenarios that they're developing and make sure that those are all complete by October 8th so that we can get that submitted to the county board for prep for November 1st. So redistribute that final document by October 10, prepare for printing, and we'll just have it all delivered to everybody just in a beautiful bound little book. Distributing grant funding was going to be sort of focused at the end of this project. We had it targeted for deliverable by December 31, that we would get all the grant funding available, sort of identified by project, by community. During the project, the CPUC did release their LATA grants. We did realize that the work we'd completed already qualified we had enough information to apply, and so LATA grants were submitted. Again, thank you to the county board and to this board for moving that forward. So we had a quick pause and started pushing through funding requests, and we can dive into more of that when I come back to your councils for presentation. So those grant opportunities are ongoing. And yesterday, everyone in the county, city staff, county points of staff in county, SBCAG, and in San Luis Obispo County and Ventura County, we did a grant funding webinar. I believe some of you were also invited to that as well, just as an FYI, if you have any interest. We can get all the materials from Mike. It's very fascinating looking at the sequencing of timing of how those grants are going to come out and how we need to prioritize the work efforts for those funds to get that middle mile and last mile complete. One of the things missing from this document is the appendix that will be provided and organized and provided within coming weeks. So keep your eyes open for that. There's a lot of information there that's going to be applicable. It's just too much to put into the print document, but it will be available online. Next slide, please. Oversimplification of project highlights. The one thing that I failed to include is on that mapping, that little bubble going into the funnel, it's an open access GIS mapping. A significant piece of this project was, well, I'll start at the top, connecting with the state work efforts. Of course, Golden State Connect and the middle mile work, meeting with Caltrans, making sure that we are actively involved, because if we don't identify the access points for each of our communities where that middle mile is going to be built, they'll just run over it and someone will have to go back in and access it later. We don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that we're engaged now. And so that's been significant and ongoing, that we will continue and make sure that Golden State Connect is where we want them. We want to partner with them and make sure we're where we want to be. The GIS tool, that's that open access mapping. What that map captures is current state as compared to, and I'll show you in a couple slides, CPUC, looking at speed testing, looking at disadvantaged communities, looking at served and unserved. There's a bunch of information in there. That is an ongoing data capture tool that's accessible. Hopefully keep it accessible for everybody so that we can track progress from where we are now and where we want to be. And I'll show you where we want to be again, another slide. What we absolutely know is we've done a pretty great job at capturing sort of that community status. What is the setup, especially when it comes to digital equity, affordability issues, accessibility issues. And at the end of the day, the top 3 out of our needs assessment survey, the top 3 answers for what do you want when you're looking for internet or broadband service, price needs to be competitive. That's the affordability issue. We don't have competitive pricing in this county anywhere. There is no competition. And that's something that's going to be addressed in the coming years. We just don't, the competition's just not there. So figuring out how to address that, whether it's through municipal Wi-Fi, community Wi-Fi, or some other way, but we just don't have enough competition for affordable internet. Speed, everybody wants fast download and they want upload. We'll sometimes hear from telecom providers that upload is not as important. There's a reason why Broadband for All asked for symmetrical download upload speeds. We are uploading more. Businesses need that capacity. If you're running a certain business, you can't have that latency. So we do know this, that people want those faster speeds. They need it for just their living, or they need it for their business. And it's number 2 of all the issues out of the needs assessment. And the third answer is reliability. This county and everybody that answered, the top answer was, we want a service that isn't going to cut out. We want that redundancy. If there's an issue in one place, we want to know that we're not going to cut off for hours or days at a time. So that redundancy, reliability piece in our planning, we show that in the document, and it's a big issue for the community of Santa Barbara County. And at the end of the day, with all this data, we're ready for broadband. Santa Barbara County is ready to participate. They're ready to do grants. They're ready to plan. And it's pretty exciting to see it happen regionally. We are well ahead of the curve in comparison to some of the other counties in our state. Next slide, please. So this is the map of significance. There's a smaller map for each of the communities by city, by a couple of the unincorporated areas. Again, we need more data. We need more speed testing. We want to see more dots on the map. That base map, the CPUC fixed consumer served, again, this project was scoped by Broadband for All, which is 100 up, 100 down, symmetrical service. As you can see by the dots on the map, only the green dots that are buried somewhere in Santa Maria and some in Santa Barbara. Only the green dots are meeting that criteria. What that means is that we still have a significant gap in what the target planning rates are and what we're currently seeing as service. Again, this impacts accessibility, affordability, and digital literacy and closing that digital divide. Not being able to access the service or the speeds that we need is something we need to plan against. And as Bill pointed out, our job will be done when that whole map is green. And then some of those areas where there is nothing along the coast up through the middle towards, you can see south of Santa Maria, and those areas, there's some valleys where there's just not even identified as needing service. There's just nothing there. So we have work to do, especially in the last mile. And all of this data is important to keep it maintained, keep it updated, and as we are doing our grant applications, making sure we're incorporating this knowledge that we have about our county into those applications. Next slide, please. So again, going to go through the recommended regional actions. In green, these are the things that are already in process as far as what's happening in hitting these important actions. The unknowns, the TBDs, pending funding, pending this board's decisions around how we continue to organize at a county, what the funding is. Of significance, under the adoption where this affordability and digital literacy and conversation goes, I'd like to point out that the Santa Barbara Foundation has agreed to be that hub for digital literacy, digital inclusion, and overall the adoption piece of this conversation. They have been an incredible partner. Couldn't be more excited to see that the work and the passion that they have. They helped us conduct the Affordable Connectivity Program that happened on August 27th. How many sites, Shelby? 6? 5 sites. This county had more participation in affordable connectivity than any other county in California. We had more sites than Fresno. Fresno was right 1 site behind us. So that level of engagement and commitment is absolutely, we were complimented highly on that level of engagement from social services, from community-based organizations, with the work of the Santa Barbara Foundation and other local community. So we're going to look forward to continue that affordability, the Affordable Connectivity Program project. So really exciting to see all that. I want to touch back on why the last mile. I'm going to talk about that a little more in another slide. The federal funding accounts to serve the unserved and served is for rural and urban areas. Originally, it was just for rural. As you could see from our speed test data, we have a lot of urban areas that could be considered unserved and underserved. There's $2 billion set aside. Each application can be a maximum of $25 million. This is some of the amount that when we're talking about planning and we're looking at what we can do, we are prepared to prepare applications for this type of level of funding to get those last mile projects completed. At the local community level, our cities are prepared. They should and should now consider putting in LATA grants, local area technical assistant grants from the CPUC. Again, SBCAG in the county, we've done the regional. There is local technical assistant grant funding to also help plan for those last mile and keep organized and keep these projects moving forward, as you'll find in the plan. Again, the adoption piece, the Santa Barbara Foundation is going to become the hub for all that work effort, which keeps all the infrastructure, the other technical pieces really focused for the cities and the county and this board. Next slide, please. Where's my little picture? There it is. Thank you. I don't remember doing that. Okay. So you remember, if you don't remember, we've been talking about the hub and spoke model, that SBCAG has been this incredible force within the center, and the hub and spoke for organizing at a regional level really makes sense. There's been a reshuffling of this org chart, as you might call it, based on where we are now in this process. The ad hoc committee, of course, pending adoption of this plan moving forward, would probably become a regular broadband committee. We do need a county-wide broadband committee. to keep track on policy, to keep that work moving forward. That Digital Equity Coalition that the Santa Barbara Foundation is going to be the hub, they would continue to participate and influence and help be a part of those infrastructure conversations, but they'll really lead the adoption digital literacy work. A new technical advisory committee might need to be formed to look, again, help support those, this or just, again, that coordination and help support some of the infrastructure, different little pieces that need to come together between the unincorporated and incorporated areas, because again, you can't just stop and drop a line and cut it off. You've got to be able to intersect and figure out when you're running through different communities. Really important to be planning together. And again, the stakeholders become those ISP partners, the state and other anchor institutions. That's our recommended role to SBCAG to continue to play that role is to implementation. Next slide, please. A little more just the focus on 2022, 2023. Of course, there's more work efforts in 2024, but what's right in front of us right now for 2022 is what is SBCAG's role with funding, with no funding. With the LATA funding, looking at JPA formation and those other organizing, again, helping fund to keep them the focus of that coordination, and then really work very closely over the next 6 months, year. The Golden State Connect infrastructure, which includes that leg to Cuyama, there's 18 priority pieces that are going to get constructed first. Cuyama is within that first 18. Then there's a whole path, and the maps will be in the plan to come through the rest of the county. It's being built by Caltrans. We need to stay engaged with that. We need to influence that planning and design process through 2023 and then figure out where those partners are, where the gaps are that the Golden State Connect doesn't make, whether it's along the coast or through the sort of more to the east. There's other areas we can see where there's more infrastructure needed. No, if there is no LATA funding, then there's a decision for this board to make on regards and, how do the cities and the counties determine their next steps for implementation? Because while there's regional implementation, there's also local implementation. Again, this plan was meant to get every single community and the region ready for grants and for broadband planning. So 2023 and 2024 would be more grant planning and more last mile grant applications. And now I'm ready for questions.
Board member questions. Mr. Hart.
Well, this is an ambitious plan, and you're very enthusiastic about all the work, and I appreciate that. And just trying to get a bigger picture thing so I can understand the scope of this. So there's the connectivity, and the map was sort of daunting in a way. It's showing how much work needs to be done. Has there been any kind of summary cost estimate of what that would take in its full implementation? It seems like an enormously expensive thing, and obviously you don't have to do it once. You just do tranches, and the grant, and it really will be driven, I guess, by grant funding. But just to get an order of magnitude scope, are we talking $1 billion, more than $1 billion?
I have no idea. Okay. But what I do know, and there's a lot, what we do know is, and this is part of what the California legislature has been working on, this is what all the federal infrastructure dollars are for. One of the grants that was, the LATA grants that was put in by the county was to do high-level design. So we could understand sort of what that design work was and then putting it out to bid. Why we've been so engaged with the public sector is because all this funding is for the public sector. It has to be delivered via grant. There is SB 156 specifically also identifies bond opportunities, other financing opportunities. The state of California is interested in building more infrastructure. There may be a partnership with RCRC. You are an RCRC. This county is an RCRC county. Once we can get through this and then we can start doing some design, then we will have cost estimates. Part of that work that Teleworks is doing right now is then we'll know what we want to design for. And we may find out through this process, we've already found out a little bit more through this process, and there's been a little bit of spur of work. There's a few telecoms that are rapidly getting grants or requests into CPUC right now because they want to get things built before the public sector does. Because one of the rules is from the feds and the state, we don't want to overbuild. The key is we're looking for fiber. A lot of this funding is for fiber builds. Something we have to remember. So when the state comes through with Golden State Connect, that's going to be fiber. So there's a lot of little bits and pieces. It's going to be really expensive. There is funding already set aside for Ventura County for last mile, around 15 million, give or take a few for priority project areas. Santa Barbara, sorry. Ventura. I'm like
I'm sure there too.
I'm just, it's one of these counties. But Santa Barbara had the middle chunk, yeah. Thank you, sorry, Mark. So it's gonna take time. Again, the Golden State Connect projects have to be finished by 2027. I don't believe all of this is gonna be finished by 2027. There's gonna be more funding tranches from the state. Again, some of that state legislation, they're gonna re-up some of these funds, and the CPUC is gonna continue to push money out. So I have a whole grant chart breakdown that we shared with everyone yesterday. There's a lot of funds, and there's going to be more.
So the strategy essentially is to get this plan ready so that all the local governments in the county will be ready to get grants done, and that'll drive the availability of the grants, and the successful application for the grants will drive the progress of the project. Okay.
And the importance of then the regional organizing is helping tier and prioritize, so we're not competing. We do know where we can tier and prioritize, and who really needs that funding first.
And the other question I had to do with affordability, because your point about the lack of competition seems very powerful. And I'm curious, in communities where there is competition, what is the price difference? So we have a desert of competition, and we all know generally what our prices are, although I don't actually know what they are all over the county. But what is an affordable price that comes from competition?
The feds have stated that affordable price is $30 a month.
That's a lot less.
That's what the ACP program covers for all the people that we're signing up right now, so all our WIC and our CARES, I'm not going to use the right acronyms, but SSI, Medicaid, all those folks that we're signing up right now for ACP, they have $30 vouchers. And what all the telecoms have done is reduce their base program to $30, basically, is what's happening. It's not always necessarily at the quality of that. It's going to be, they only have to be at 25.3. Again, we want them to be upping their service. Affordability is really, it's kind of one of those ambiguous, because we can see across, neighborhoods with some of that speed test data, some people are paying $50. In Santa Barbara City, I believe it was, I found out that the person receiving the absolute fastest service is paying $70 a month, and someone in the mid-level is still at about $120. A side study that we're looking at with UCSB is they're going to be running some case runs and looking at what people are paying versus the service they're getting, just so we have more data. But that will come in November.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rouse?
Hi, I was looking at the coverage map and the different color codes and whatnot, and I thought about the urban areas that seemed like they were not covered. And my question was, in terms of real-time data, do you dovetail with the various school districts around, because they have very real-time data on underserved families, income levels, and whatnot? Is that part of the research program that's going on now?
Our outreach with the school districts, we do actually have some, when we met within the communities, especially in Guadalupe and Orcutt, and actually Ballard School District saw some significant struggles in reaching their students. We can work with them on real-time data around affordable connectivity. They did push out the survey and the speed testing to some of their students, and we got some good feedback from them. Not as much as we would have liked, so would like to still have more, but keeping the school districts sort of engaged in this process as well has been important for data.
Yeah, because I would just, once again, as I look at the urban area of Santa Barbara, and I realize there are certain neighborhoods that are underserved. A lot of them are Spanish-speaking neighborhoods primarily, and I don't know how we communicate with those and how we got that kind of need data out of that sector.
Yeah, that's a great, there's more that we can do there. When we're doing the Affordable Connectivity Program outreach, we can target those communities a lot more closely and our partners that we have there already to get some more of the data. I feel like we're learning a little bit more about why some of these unserved and underserved areas are or are not connected. And I'm not going to make any assumptions at this time, but we have some thoughts about what might be happening, including language barrier as one, but also some housing inventory or quality of housing inventory being another.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Online, we have Director Perotti.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to start off by thanking everyone that's worked on this very ambitious strategic broadband strategic plan, and at the speed of it's going. You know, it's moving quickly, and you've accomplished a lot. I do have a few questions, but thank you for all the hard work. I do have a few questions based on feedback from the stakeholder groups. Have they met and seen this draft, or are we seeing it for the first time? And when will they see it?
You're seeing it for the first time. Stakeholder groups that we've engaged with, you know, we could send it out to them. The most important stakeholder is the cities and the county staff, those we've been fully engaged with them throughout the process. In regards to bringing it out to sort of that broader, the influencer, sort of the community members, we have not pushed it out to them. It's really a heavy, weighty document. We feel like we have the data we need. Of course, we welcome the community to take a look at it. It is really a planning tool for the public sector to write grants and to plan for, you know, broadband for all. So that's the long answer, Mayor.
Thank you. And then my next question would be on the reference source. Where for the city of Goleta, did you get your information from the census or from our general plan? There's a few edits in there, and I'm sure staff will work with you. It's nothing major, but you know, it's a little bit on the schools and airport and parks, you know, but we can work on that. But I'm just wondering where that information came from, and can we have something eventually that will have a reference chart so people can do their own fact check if they choose to?
Yeah, that's part of what we're putting together right now is what are those citations, what are the references, what are the appendices need to be. Some of the data we pulled off of, consisting off NAICS codes, like we got the NAICS codes by community, just sort of what are the targeted industries. The rest of it, Shelby, help me, where did we take the general census population? It was from the census website. That's what I thought. I just want to make sure. Yeah. So the actual direct census website.
And then you reference, and I think you've answered this already, but I'm just gonna, for my understanding, 100% capacity. I mean, can you explain exactly what that means?
The 100% speed, 100 symmetrical speeds.
Yes.
That's a megabit per second speed. It's really only, you can achieve it. They can be achieved with the infrastructure that we have. It's just easier to get the you can only get that symmetrical download upload speed with fiber.
I see. And I think maybe I read the draft wrong, but it seemed like you were saying that we had that in the city of Goleta, and but that doesn't really address, and I'm glad you did address the affordability issue as well. I mean,
yeah, what we see is that there's pockets of areas where people are having that level of service. We can't explain specifically as to why, because even again, I point out in the city of Santa Barbara, I found a speed that was incredibly slow, and 2 houses down, it's, 500 up, 500 down, 400 up, or whatever. It's a huge disparity. So what are we seeing in disparities? Is it equipment? Is it computers? Is it wiring? Why are we seeing this disparity? And is it really the internet or the broadband that's causing that? we don't know.
Thank you for that. And I'm glad that you're really looking at, you know, how we can, the challenges of affordability, because I hear that a lot from my constituents as being a challenge. But thank you. Those are all my questions.
Director Hartman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a new favorite proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And in this project, you've managed us all together going fast, and I think that's really extraordinary. And now we're trying to figure out what is the structure for going forward, for going long. So my first question has to do with the LATA funding. When do we know about that?
Hopefully by the end of October, November. We were in the first, our grants were in the first 17 that the state, that the CPUC received. So we feel really good about that and very optimistic, but I leave it up to Bill to guess when those are coming.
Okay, but
It's October, November.
yeah, so one of the things we need to do with SBCAG is figure out, our governance. You put up the chart. How are we going to organize? Did this work out well working together? Can we continue to manage to have SBCAG play a leadership role? And if we get the LATA grant, does that include funding to help offset a person at SBCAG to support the effort?
Yes, for a while, yes, and then we would want more.
Right. So, in a way, a lot depends on that, and we just have to wait and see.
Yeah. And again, that's the most preferable way to organize a region. Again, the cities and the county have enough information that, preferably everyone works together. What we heard from almost all the cities is we do not have capacity to address this issue to the level that it needs to be addressed. We like this regional work. It's a much better way to crowdsource funding and be more efficient. So would encourage figuring out a way to continue to do that.
So what should the cities be doing? It seemed like you were saying some should start planning now, and possibly for last mile.
Yep.
So could you elaborate and how that fits within our regional context?
So last mile planning fits within the regional context in that there's going to be an interconnection between that middle mile and last mile. There might be, they might need planning support from SB. So what it looks like is SBCAG being able to help provide planning staff, help coordinating with ISPs, making sure it's a single point of contact. That's how that last mile role really fits in. In some of the communities, I'm going to use Lompoc as an example. Met with them. They've got this wireless system. They really check all the boxes in regards to policy. Their policy is in a line. They have pole permitting. You'll look through that. We've asked every community who has authorization to even give broadband permits, but really help focus and streamline. So say there's an issue and Lompoc wants to do some last mile funding or some affordability or a project or a program in coordination with SBCAG, in coordination with the Digital Equity Coalition, really identifying and prioritizing what should those funds be, what should they be asking for at this point in time, so that we can make sure that it's being applied appropriately. So there's just that coordination. That's how it looks. But
so it sounds like we really need to make a commitment if we can fund it for that to occur, to make. And my last question has to do with the role of the Santa Barbara Foundation. I think that's terrific. It would be great at some point to have them give a presentation to SBCAG so we have a better idea of how they're doing this. And the two strands are separate, but ideally will come together.
There's so much work in the affordability and in the adoption work. It is such a big project that we're still working with Santa Barbara Foundation, and Shelby Arthur, who's here, has really come onto the team to help take the lead and work really closely with the foundation, make sure that the goals and who needs to be engaged and how we're going to organize and put all those pieces together. Again, there's some other digital equity coalition examples that we're following. We're not creating this from scratch. It's a model that works, but really making sure that the CBOs are the ones that are really helping drive it seems to be where we see the most effective work being done, and in that coordination. They coordinate with the school districts, with government, with other CBOs, with social services. And so, yeah, I would really highly recommend probably even another month or two, we'll be more closely ready for that, the Digital Equity Coalition conversation. But it's very exciting to see how that's coming together.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Director Sierra.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm fairly ignorant about the broadband. You've got your middle mile and you've got your last mile. Our cities need to work on the last mile. Is that correct, within city limits?
Right. So last mile within cities or within city limits, last mile within the county, or those far rural connections are their last mile. So there's
Okay, and
we all
middle
have last
mile is what Caltrans is doing to connect city to city.
It's a long haul, and again, I apologize for not putting the map up. I didn't have a really clear one. I do have Caltrans most recent. They always want me to couch it by saying under development, but what we're seeing is it's basically a main line that comes up through the middle, up the 101, tears off to the Cuyama, moves up into San Luis Obispo County, and so with a couple little legs going into Guadalupe. Yeah, we'll make sure that you have a copy of that map so you can see what we're talking about.
Thank you very much. And the LATA funding that the cities would apply for is then for the last mile.
Or for broadband planning. LATA dollars can be used for design costs. You could actually get a full last mile design. It could pay for some staff time. It can pay, LATA has a lot of, and again, we've been trying to meet with all the city staff to help them understand what that LATA grant process is and what those LATA grants look like and what they qualify for. Again, everybody that participated in the webinar yesterday, but I will make sure to push out the guidebook and again, those LATA directions, because it's not just last mile. We're just encouraging last mile planning consideration.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And Director Osborne.
Well, I just want to say thank you. Bill knows how long I've been working on this, since 2012, before I ever got on council or much less on SBCAG. And this document, I know it's a draft and we've all got feedback and all our staff and have feedback, but this is an amazing document. I don't think SBCAG and everyone here actually understands how much having such a complete document with as much information as we have sets us on a path of success. This is something that has been bits and pieces over the past 10 years that we never could get complete. And I am just very impressed with it. I'm very appreciative of it. I want to thank you, Maria, for, taking it up and running with it as thoroughly as you have, and Bill for being just persistent. You have been there all this time, and for jumping in when we asked and helping us not just turn that wheel but move it forward. So I just want to bring it up that this has been so long in the making, and yet to see the results so quickly and put us ahead of the game and open the door for so many communities, whether the unincorporated area or our cities, can move forward on these grant opportunities is just huge. And just high fives, everybody. Great job.
Thank you.
Well, those are all great questions and comments. I have a couple. You already anticipated my Cuyama shout out, Mr. Becker. Want to make sure that our constituents in Cuyama Valley understand that there is an even more detailed planning called for because the state has individual funding, and we are going to help facilitate a workshop, our office out in the Cuyama Valley, tried to get it nailed down by the time we had this meeting, but we don't quite have it nailed down yet. On the digital literacy component, I very much, I think it's great the Santa Barbara Foundation has chosen to spearhead this, but I definitely hope that we will extend, the model of promotores de salud as a great model for getting that out onto the street for a couple different reasons. One is it works, but the other reason is that those individuals also can help disseminate information, on, kid protections for people that are new to devices. We definitely want to promote the adoption and the ability of people of lower incomes to be able to be a part of the economy, but we also don't want to see further detrimental health effects of kids having too much screen time, and it's a great way to marry those two with the promotores model. And then the last one is just because you guys took care of the Kuyama thing, I was trying to think of something intelligent to ask about. But I'm looking at the maps in a couple places, and I see, very low speeds on the UCSB campus where thousands of students are, and where that's obviously a huge place of commerce. Bad speeds all around the Oak Park Cottage Hospital neighborhood, and bad speeds in the Lagunitas neighborhood, the eastern part of Carpinteria, which is a super nice, newly built neighborhood. So some of the thing I noticed about all three of those areas, and so I just love some thought or way of future investigation on this. They all are proximate to large commercial enterprises. So, is that because they were built out with the same infrastructure as other residential neighborhoods, but those large enterprises are sucking up all the bandwidth? That those areas have such low performance, or is there any way we could look into that possibility?
There's definitely further analysis that can be done, and I appreciate that you found some of those anomalies because we see them all over around UCSB. Yeah, we're not sure why that would be, because we can see that ironically the chancellor's office is around Guadalupe. The fastest speeds around Guadalupe were from university connectivity, and we're like, what is that? Maybe it's the scenic network. We're not sure. So, is it, we'd have to look at provider, who's the provider. Is it a Wi-Fi connection? Is it a fiber to the home? Is it a fiber connection, co-op? What is that connection? And again, that's why the feds and the state are really pushing fiber, because then we wouldn't have that. We wouldn't see those disparities. So yes, there's definitely a deeper level of planning that can be done now, because we have this baseline data. We can look in and say, where does community Wi-Fi make sense, or municipal Wi-Fi make sense, or should we be looking at something else? So yeah, there's further conversations, and those are really, really great questions. If I may respond, the point of having a hub for the digital coalition, the promotores are a part of that. It's pulling together the best of what is already happening without reinventing us and getting us organized, making sure Partners for Education can push up into northern Santa Barbara County, where they haven't had a presence before. So we submitted a CASIF grant for Partners in Education to work with Lompoc Adult School and Guadalupe Family Services Agency, where they've never had a presence on education, on internet safety, for parents, for product. So it's to organize us and keep the promotores super engaged and help us target where we need to be targeting as fast as possible.
Director Patino?
Thank you. As you know, we in Santa Maria have been for quite some time putting together our fiber optic loop as we would redo streets on Main Street or Blosser or Miller. Then we would put in, because that was the most efficient, economically way to go. And so we have been doing this for a few years now. And then we have a few spurs that go off to the landfill. We do go right by the Santa Maria Bonita School District headquarters and we go by our police department. But I think that the reason I think we have moved so fast on this is that we are all trying to go, we feel the need. We saw this after COVID. It was very startling to see how so many of our students couldn't log on, didn't have the ability in their homes because it was not accessible. And so I think we all saw the need for this. And we're all going in the same direction. And I guess my question to you is, how are we going to be shepherding this whole thing through so that we know what other communities are doing, where the gaps are, how we can help them? And I think this is part of it. I think we all just really want to help each other. We see the need and we see how it will positively affect our entire county. And if one person isn't up to speed, then we've got to, as Joan said, have the commitment there to get them there where they need to be, because that all helps all of us. It helps our entire communities. And I don't think we're looking this as an either or. I just see us as positively wanting to go forward. So first committee I've been on, we're all in agreement all the time at every meeting. Thank you. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being there.
I'd like to compliment the city of Santa Maria on their great work efforts and their planning and their engagement through this process. It's been a pleasure working with the team up in Santa Maria, so as well with everyone. And just on that point, if Santa Maria is doing well and we can get Orcutt doing well, then we can reconnect Casmalia. Casmalia is a really unfortunate story, and it cannot be overlooked that they are incredibly disconnected because they're a tiny little community and they're isolated with almost no service. And it's a health and safety issue. And so as we're building it out, we do need to take into consideration these little communities right now that are very isolated and disconnected.
Any other questions or comments? Speak now to hold your peace. Is there any public comment on this item?
Chair Williams received no request for public comment.
And I'll bring it back to Mr. Becker.
Thank you, Chair Williams. I just wanted to mention, and I mentioned it during my portion of the presentation, that we are in the process of scheduling engagements with city councils and the Board of Supervisors. We have a couple of them already on the calendar. And as we get that calendar filled out, we will develop a press release, or we'll be able to get it out more broadly. So it'll have the dates of all the presentations going forward, as well as links to the draft for a broader review than what we're currently doing now. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no motion on this, but I do want to thank those directors that brought this issue up in the first place, and the can-do attitude of SBCAG staff, not saying, hey, this isn't in our job description, instead saying, let's get this done, and I love that kind of spirit. With that, let's go on to item 7.
Item 7 is the new SBCAG agency logo. Receive a presentation on the new SBCAG agency graphic logo.
So good morning still. My name's Lauren Bianchi Clement, for the record, Government Affairs and Public Information Manager for SBCAG. A logo, next, let's do just the next slide. A logo is the single most identifiable element of an organization's visual identity. It's how we communicate the essential work that we do. So when we're talking about broadband, when we're talking about the Highway 101, this is our identity. So today I'm pleased to debut a modernized new SBCAG graphic logo that reflects the role of our association, our role as an association of city and county governments serving Santa Barbara County since 1966, and its commitment to build better communities through partnership. I have a brief presentation to remind us why we're here, where we've been, and then get to the good part, our unveiling of our logo. So in January of this year, SBCAG board authorized a website replacement and logo redesign project. We are currently working with Planetarium Media on this. It's modernizing and aligning the agency's identity with our core values and digital presence. We are improving public and jurisdiction partners' online experience and access to information. And we're upgrading the overall safety and security of the website to be up to date with state and federal regulatory requirements, as well as compliance with web content accessibility guidelines and integration of Spanish language into our website platform. Feedback via an online survey of stakeholders, agency partners, and board of directors, as well as the logo redesign phase of the project is complete. The website is also well underway in design and expected to be complete early 2023. So now that I've told you about why we're here, I would like to show you a little bit about where we've been. Next slide, please. So as you can see, this is a little journey since 1983. That's as far as I could go back of our agency's logos. Our current logo has been largely unchanged for probably about 2 decades. As you can see, the color palette is a little dated. While not intentional in the design, the current logo occasionally is perceived as being a road, which no longer communicates what a regional government partner does and the work and values that we do. So now that we've saw where we've been, let's get to my final points. Go ahead and next slide. Elastigirl from The Incredibles learned an important lesson. Your identity is your most valuable possession. There were several pieces of SBCAG's identity and values that stood out to both staff and the design team, and a few of those highlights were our agency has served this county for more than 55 years. We were established in 1966. We're committed to our motto of building better communities through partnership, not just to collaborate with every city and county, but to intentionally work to connect unique and distinct communities in ways no one else can. We heard the desire for simplicity. So much of the work that we do is technical and use acronyms and government jargon. So it was important that a logo image wasn't complex, that it was clear and authentic. We are also an agency that looks into the future. We often hear Margie Kern, our executive director, say that we're a small agency that does big things. It was expressed that it was important to my colleagues, to our staff, and to those we serve that we dream big while finding the right balance to reach significant milestones. We have a vision and motivation to do work of today and to find opportunities for tomorrow. So let's wrap up and show you this logo. So go ahead and next slide, please. And here it is. As you can see, the new logo reflects the message that the success of SBCAG is the result of the combined effort of all aspects of our county and communities. The lines that you see in there show the idea of forward momentum. The circle reflects unity of our work, an association of counties, an association of cities and the county. The simple modern design shows how distinct communities connect together. It's the diversity of our region's geographical landscape with an updated color palette reflecting what we love about the hues and the colors of Santa Barbara County. Thank you for the opportunity to present this new logo. We'll be rolling it out this next month and adoption by October 1st. And then the website will follow in the new year. So that's it.
Any comments or questions?
It looks the same.
Any more questions or?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Lavity.
Thank you. How much did this cost us?
Yeah, so this is including a whole website revamp, and it is, I think the contract was about $75,000. We budgeted $100,000 for it. So we came in under budget.
Okay, well,
with the lowest bid, and that includes an entire rebuild of the website.
that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing
So
we have to
this
concentrate
logo
on
is-
is that, yeah, we needed to, that was an ancillary portion of this. So we just did not
Agreed.
spend $75,000 on a logo. So
No.
yes, thank you.
Yeah, and the logo update refresh was just to, as, yeah, again, ancillary, a part of the website update. And yeah, our website currently is not compliant with any regulatory requirements.
Any other questions? Is there any public comment?
Chair Williams, we received no request for public comment.
Any comments or conclusions from the board?
I would like to comment. This is Patino in Santa Maria. I guess I wondered why we had to do this, but it really bothers me with the expense because it might be 75,000, but then it's going to be a lot more for years because you've got stationery, you've got emblems on the cars and everything. It just seems like such a waste of money. But that's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks. We did take that into account. We do not have any emblems on cars. We're a small agency. And so most of the letterhead that we're doing is all digital. So it's a transition to digital. And so most of the expense are, maybe as business cards when they run out. So it's attrition. So once things are out of stock, we will order new ones. So we're not like aggressively overhauling our materials.
I very much appreciate you clarifying that because I think that's a responsible way to handle it, is to continue to use our old materials until they're done. Other comments, questions? I think this is just a tough one. Getting the public to know what a metropolitan planning organization is a real challenge. And so, short of lighting yourself on fire or, I don't know, making a racy logo, I don't know what will get people's attention, but it's probably worth it to try, to make the public more aware of what we do in their name and hopefully in their interest. So appreciate the effort, and let's go on to item 8. One-minute reports. Come on, I know Director Urick's got one. Mr. Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Santa Barbara, the city of Santa Barbara won the project of the year for our Las Positas MODOC portion of that bike trail. You guys have your fun part of it coming up, but the American Public Works Association presented us with that award. Also, the De La Vina bike lane, the connectivity between Haley and Castillo is complete, part of a Vision Zero project with enhanced lighting. And then for the city itself, we'll be introducing our new police chief sometime this month. It's Kelly Gordon, late of Montebello. And we'll be having a new airport director who is late of Santa Maria, Chris Hastert, who some of you probably already know. And that's my report. Thank you.
Any other one-minute reports? No?
Yes.
There's no public events in Solvang that has happened? Or is
Oh my gosh. So just really quick, and I was trying to grab my cord because it said I'm low power right now. But anyway, just this weekend, starting tomorrow night, we start our Danish Days weekend, and starts tomorrow with a torchlight parade. We have 3 days of three parades. The main one being on Saturday afternoon. Hope some of you can make it for some able skeevers all day long. Thank you.
Thank you. I just also want to, in case folks are following it, some of you are voting members, so I wanted to remind folks that next week is the annual meeting of 3CE in Monterey. It will have a presentation on Wednesday afternoon, and then a normal policy board meeting on Thursday. If anybody needs some help carpooling or getting up there and getting accommodations, let me know. And just in general, the big takeaways are, though the energy markets have been very volatile and we've been struggling with some of our PPAs to keep a hold of them, we've been able to endure and replace one of our PPAs that we lost with 2 good geothermal, and we are still poised to have a price decrease going in next year. So I hope that's all good news. Okay, let's go to item 9, the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, members of the board. I just received this information from Director Osborne. I want to congratulate the city of Buellton. They won a League of Cities award, the Helen Putnam Award for Economic Development through the Arts. And so I'm not exactly sure of the details because Janelle let me know about that. So congratulations to you. And then Guadalupe won a $4.9 million grant, a federal grant for the theater restoration. So again, congratulations on that. I also want to thank the Guadalupe for hosting the Mexican Independence Day in Guadalupe. SBCAG had a booth with our Easy Bike promotions as well as our REAP 2.0 outreach that we're required to do for the funding that we're going to award at the end of this calendar year. It was a great outreach opportunity to our Spanish speakers, and we were able to get many surveys completed through that outreach, so thank you for that. I also want to let the board know we just started construction on the Santa Claus Lane bike path this past week. We anticipate construction to be done the summer of 2023, so less than a year, and we like to have a bike event and when that is completed so we can all enjoy that new bike path. And last but not least, my last plug for the RSVPs to our reception that we're having with the California Transportation Commission. This will be on October 12th at the CTC reception at the Mar Monte Hotel at 5:30 p.m. We received several RSVPs yesterday, so thank you for that. And other board members, either contact me or Lauren and we'll get you signed up for that event. And that's my report. Thank you very much.
Questions from board members? I'm going to start remotely because my colleagues here aren't jumping on it. Director Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a general comment about e-bikes and e-bike safety. I would like to see SBCAG develop something or encourage others to develop something about e-bike safety, especially for children and teenagers. I think that this is an issue that we're going to see more accidents, and I think somehow it would behoove us to weigh in a positive way and try to avoid catastrophe down the road, because some of these e-bikes can, where they ride and how they ride and the speeds they ride at, it could be quite dangerous.
That would be useful to understand data on that if there is any. Any other questions for our Executive Director? I don't see any in Santa Barbara, any online. Okay, then we will move on to item 9, or item 10, Caltrans report. Is Mr. Eads on?
All right, I am.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, Scott Eads here again for the SBCAG update from Caltrans. So I first wanted to tie into a couple of the items on your agenda. We are super excited to be partnering with SBCAG on the joint application for the SB1 competitive funding programs. We've got, again, once again, a really solid team doing great work. I know that the end product of this application is going to be really stellar. And so we greatly appreciate the partnership and the funds that you're bringing to the table to really make sure that, and the folks that you're bringing to the table to make sure that what we submit is really top notch, and I know it will be. Second thing I want to highlight is the broadband middle mile. This is a huge focus right now for Caltrans. It's really becoming one of our bigger focuses right now because we've been tasked by the California Department of Technology to implement approximately 10,000 miles statewide. And this is a big increase in our workload. The dollars expire within a certain period of time that we have access to. And so we're wanting to make sure that we can deliver as much of that, if not all of that. The goal is to deliver all of it, and we're committed to doing so. But there are not, some significant challenges in doing so, trying to implement so much at one time. Within District 5, Caltrans is charged with implementing approximately 672 miles. And so the project efforts are moving very quickly. The section in Cayuma New Cayuma and Cayuma on 166 is one of our first projects within the district. It is the first project in the district. There's others that are in the project phases. We're also tying wherever we can these efforts into shop projects or other projects that are ongoing. So we're looking at ways, even in the construction phase, to be able to include these elements where we can. Again, we know what the trunk line is for this network within District 5, and so we're looking for every opportunity that we can. We're also looking at innovative approaches to deliver these projects, including job order contracting and CMGC. We're familiar with CMGC because of the Santa Barbara 101 corridor. We're going to be using that in other areas of the district for broadband middle mile projects. And then, of course, there's significant coordination going on with resource agencies to ensure that we can obtain the permits that we need so that we can build these things in a timely manner. So all that said, we're eager to, we appreciate what you're doing at SBCAG in terms of getting ahead with the strategic plan, really thinking about ways to coordinate, and we are eager to coordinate with you and your staff to make sure that our efforts are complementary. Next thing I want to highlight is the Coastal Cleanup Day, which is September 17th. And Caltrans Stormwater Program is coordinating with the California Coastal Commission to help highlight that event. And we're also broadening it for other efforts within Caltrans that are focusing more on awareness activities and educational workshops centered around not just the coastal areas, but also local rivers and creeks and lakes. So for us, it's we're trying to broaden it into more growing awareness around the state. For more information on that, you can go to the Coastal Commission's website. They have information there. You could just type in California Coastal Commission Coastal Cleanup Day 2022. And then the final thing I wanted to highlight is we have, so for those of you who don't know, Caltrans has a quick map, which is something that's available online. You can also get an app on your phone, and it provides real-time traffic information and information about crashes or incidents that might slow you down on your trip, or diversions or closures, even construction activities. So you can download the app at quickmap.dot.gov, and there's a new feature on there that I wanted to highlight as well, that there's also now a push notifications that will identify where you are if you turn on that feature, and it will send you a notification that, hey, there's an incident ahead within, and I think the range is with roughly 10 miles. It'll notify you that there's something ahead you should be aware of that might help you to decide to move your trip around or go in a different direction, take an alternate route. That's all I have today. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Eads?
Director Sierra has a comment, if that's okay, Chair Williams?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, I mentioned it yesterday, I just want to make sure that you're aware. Last month, I made a comment about some weeds growing along 246 by Thumbelina, and I just wanted to thank you. The response was so quick on it. They were out there within a week, and I've had more phone calls complimenting the work than I did complaining about the mess. So I just wanted to thank you very, very much for the quick action.
Thank you.
This is Patino and Santa Maria. I also want to compliment Caltrans. They came in and did a cleanup on the northbound Stoll Road on-ramp to Jones Street and the southbound Stoll ramp and the off-ramp and Highway 101 at Main Street. And people have been complaining, and I want to thank Caltrans for coming in and doing that, because I'm the one that takes the brunt of the complaints. So it makes me look better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Isn't it always nice when they make us look good? Director Urick.
It is.
Yes, thank you, Chair Williams. Scott, I just wanted to ask if we can have someone look into putting some speed limit signs at the roundabout on 246 and 154. I'm not sure why there isn't any leading into, at least coming from the Santa Barbara side, when you're driving. I haven't really checked the other side, but coming from, say, Los Olivos, heading into that intersection. But I know, being someone who drives that frequently, there's a lot of people that you're seeing brakes slamming on as they're getting into there because it's 2 lanes entering it as opposed to 1. A lot of people think that they can go a little quicker through there. And just for safety for everyone, I think it would behoove Caltrans to put at least a speed limit sign indicating the safe speed to be able to traverse the roundabout. I believe my recollection is that there is one going into the one at La Purísima and 246, but there isn't any for some reason on that particular one. There is the indication, that we have a roundabout coming, but no indication of what would be the safe speed. And knowing how traffic tends to speed up on that straightaway leaving into there, because a lot of people are trying to get around whatever slow vehicles happen right after the passing lane, which is just on the west side of the San Ynez River Bridge right there at 154. Everyone speeds up to try to get around slow cars and things, and then you have a full straightaway heading right into that roundabout. And I know speeds are in excess of the speed limit that's already posted at 55. But I just think it might be something to look into and for safety for everyone. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Chair, if I could respond to that to Director Uhrig.
Thank you.
It was certainly, I will bring it up with our traffic folks, have them look it over. I know that we have like sign packages that are part of the roundabout design. Not sure if this included it or not, and if there was reasons behind that, but I'll follow up with our traffic folks and have them make sure they're aware of your interest and request, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. There's a lot of signs leading into that intersection, but none of them are speed limit signs, posted of what's supposed to happen there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Eads? Thank you, Mr. Eads, and hopefully you or your team will be there also in October. It will be great to have this strong push on the corridor. So hope to see you or Joe there as well.
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually going to be in Europe with my family. I'm super bummed because I have looked forward to the October meeting with CTC for many years as it keeps getting deferred. But I'm super stoked that it's happening, and we will definitely have Caltrans representative there.
Well, you get a pass if you're taking your family to Europe. That sounds awesome. Okay, committee reports. We only have one, which is Calvans. So Director Julian.
Hi, good morning all. Just 3 quick items. We met Thursday, September the 8th, and one of the items of concern with Calvans is that CHP and the DMV is requiring that the volunteer drivers, and there's like 690, are required to have a P certification on their licenses, which means 30 hours of classroom work, written examination, behind the wheel testing, and more specifically for the 15 passenger vans. So Caltrans is trying to meet with the CHP and DMV, because if you're asking the volunteers to go to that additional certification, you may lose a lot of the drivers, and that'll hurt the program. And Class P basically is more stringent. It's good to have, but a lot of the volunteers may not want to do that. So that's gonna hurt the program. Another item is that the fleet activity. It was an update that fleet activity, again, there's 693 total vans in the state of California. 593 are agriculture with 98 non-ag, like prisons and non-ag businesses. In Santa Barbara County, there's 116 Cal vans and they're all ag. Buellton has 2, Guadalupe has 8, Lompoc has 44, Los Olivos has 1, Santa Maria has 59, San Ynez has 2, for a total of 116 operating here in Santa Barbara County. And the last item is the approval of a rate increase. Cal vans was hit with over $1 million in excess because of the gas fuel prices. So the fuel, each of the drivers that drive and volunteer, they're charged $101.35 a mile. And from that, they collect from the ridership, and then that's documented in terms of how much that is paid, because the drivers have a gas card. All of these vehicles it's interesting, have GPS, so everybody knows on the Cal van side where everybody goes. And so it's going to be increased from 135 per mile to 145 per mile. Quite busy. So that's my report. Any questions?
Is there any questions for Director Julian? Seeing none, thank you, Director Julian. Director Hart had other matters, so I just wanted to say a reminder to folks that that Amtrak regularly scheduled trains are not canceled as of now because of the agreement reached between workers and the freight rail companies. Okay, the next board meeting will be Thursday, October 20th, beginning at 10 a.m. So we'll adjourn. Thank you all for attending.
Bye, everybody.